All right, it's John Carrots, and
Hey
I'm
there,
here today with Tom Callahan. That's the
buddy.
right way to say it, right? I'm always bad with names.
Yeah. Well, there's
Everybody
no
always
G.
kills
There's no
my
G
name.
in there. It's nothing to confuse you. It's very easy. Like Dirty Harry.
Yeah, well, that was a good
Um,
movie back
yeah.
when Clint was young, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a gentleman that does two things I love. You do karate, you do music. Maybe you could
Yes,
talk,
sir.
tell people about yourself and how you got into both of those and what you've been doing.
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in Boston and I started training in Waichiru, an Okinawan-based karate, 1972. Um, Started playing music when I was about 9. I started training when I was about 11 and started playing music when I was about 9, and that's all I've ever done. I was a music major in college, a dropout after my second year. Went from Boston to California, touring musician, and ended up in the record business. Stopped and started martial arts a number of times, and then started seriously again in the '90s, mid '90s. But traveled, did it all through my life. But I would do a year or two, then stop, and then so I started Kyokushin karate, which is Masuyama is the founder of that style. And that's the one I'm dedicated to for many, many years now.
You always liked in the old days with him killing the bulls and everything.
Well, that's a little bit. He knocked some horns off, but they were really that's a little bit of a
It was
little
good
bit of a
publicity, and
it was good publicity.
I've talked to other people about that.
Yeah.
We're both in our early 60s, and
Yep.
it's funny, but in the day, let's face it, there's a lot of things we did for promotion that today the young guys look at and they go, "Well, that was ridiculous, and why did they do that?" But it was
Well,
kind of it
it
was
was
the
younger days. It was younger days back then. I mean, I remember when I started like you in the early '70s training that it was still it was new and it was mystical, sort of, And a lot of these guys that brought the karate back from Okinawa, they were in the service. I'm George Matson, who started Weichiru, brought Weichiru rather here to the States. He was in Okinawa. Your Shorinryu teacher, I think, was from Okinawa. Maybe your Ishinryu guys. I mean, these guys were in the service and they brought it back from the masters, and that's sort of how it got a foothold. And it really didn't start till the 60s. It started being, Bruce Lee, of course. And then I started getting hooked on Kung Fu, the David Carradine show, which really is the one how I really got interested in it more than Bruce Lee was David Carradine, who wasn't a real martial artist, but what do you know when you're a kid? It was a great show. And but that kept me inspired and into training and all that kind of stuff. So, music and martial arts is all I've ever known how to do. I can't fix anything. I can't even change the flapper on the toilet. I can't do shit. So
that
I'm
reminds
no,
me,
I'm
I got
not.
to do two of those, so thanks.
Yeah, I'm not proud. I'm just saying. I mean, I flunked wood shop in school. I mean, how do you flunk wood shop? I managed to do that. But I made a little stool. And the stool was like this. Brought it home. I was very proud of it. My dad's looking at it like, good job, Tom. I have other skills, so I can break it.
Yeah, there you go. When I started, judo was bigger than karate, and my first studio had judo, karate, gung
Yep,
fu because it was
yep.
before the
Gung
kung
Fu
fu show.
G. Yeah, sure,
As soon
sure.
as the kung fu TV show came out, they had to change it to gung fu,
Exactly.
and I had to change it to kung fu. I'm sorry, but I
Yep.
have to admit, my first love wasn't Bruce Lee either. It was actually Sonny Chiba with his Street
Oh,
Fighter.
Sonny. Well, Sonny was Kyokushin. I've met him a number of times. Great guy,
He
and he
was,
just passed away. But
yeah,
yeah,
not too long ago. He was kind of
yep.
a kick-ass kind of guy, which
Oh,
was,
absolutely.
never, son, never let any man beat you. And it's like when you're younger, that's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah. Well,
older now, so I don't know,
well, no, that's still the mantra for Kyokushin. That's why we say OS, OSU. OS is about perseverance, never giving up, overcoming obstacles, and ultimately, when you're training, I think the West has this whole idea about winning and losing as opposed to character development. You know, and this is the I teach Budo karate, the Budo philosophy that accompanies martial art, which is the philosophy of the martial arts, and a lot of that is lost these days, especially in the West, unfortunately. Um, so I really try to teach Budo, and of course Budo is also full contact. Is like Masayama said, there's no truth without real fighting. So this whole point system, Shotokan stuff, there's some really great, martial artists, but it's not full contact. So it's a point system. It becomes a sport, in other words. So I don't teach a sport karate. It's more street in truth.
Well, I have to admit, a lot today, there's a lot of the younger guys. I said earlier about younger guys and seeing, how we used to do the breakings, everything to make people want to come into the studio. And now they look back and they go, oh, those guys did all that silly stuff that really didn't show anything. Actually, it didn't, but it got people interested. But my other issue is talking to some other gentlemen recently. Mostly in the old days, when you went to a karate studio or martial arts studio, those guys were ex-military that trained over in Asia,
Right.
and it's different than it is today. We don't have a lot of instructors that are just ex-military that lived in Asia, and I think
Yeah.
there's disciplines gone and the perseverance part of it. I
Yeah.
used to do 2.5 hour classes on a Tuesday,
Oh
3 hours
yeah.
on a Thursday,
Yeah.
and you hated it. But now that you're older, it gives you that tunnel kind of a perseverance, stick with something that
Yeah.
I don't think the people get today in their half-hour to 50-minute classes. Uh,
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And as I just mentioned too, I think as important as that, which is very important, what you're saying is that um, they're teaching, it's all about tournaments. It seems to be mostly all about tournaments, winning a trophy and beating, anyone can win. You know that, right? I mean, obviously, I can fight this guy and lose. I can fight him again a week later and win. I mean, so what's the purpose of it? I mean, the tournaments are good because you can overcome fear and you can test out your techniques, things like that. But there's rules. I mean, you can't break the knee, you can't kick the ball, the balls, you can't smash the nose, you can't eyes, throat. I mean, all the soft tissue targets, you can't do that in the tournaments. And so, if you're training for tournaments only, then when you get in the street and you actually need to use it, you're limited. And your brain, your mechanics, and your physical mechanics, and your reflexes may go into uh, the tournament type of stuff, which is not going to be probably the best way. And especially with jujitsu, you don't want to go to the ground. You don't want to be rolling around in the ground and people start on their backs and say, "Come on, let's go." I mean, there's benefits to everything. There is benefits to every style, especially if there's a good teacher and you're dedicated. You will get something out of it. But um, I think the approach to teaching and approach to training, um, and I'm saying this in generalities. Of course, there are great dojos out there in every discipline, from judo to Krav Maga to jiu-jitsu to karate. But generally speaking, I think they're off a little bit in their approach to training and teaching.
well, one of the I would say the thing is too is MMA, UFC. There are still rules. It's not totally ruleless.
Right.
Uh, so that's a conception there that it's not it is might be closer to real combat, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
not like you're out in the street. You're out in the street,
No,
so
I mean, you have to have rules when you're training. I mean, that's why
you
people
can't kill each
say
other.
that. Well, in Kyokushin, we used to punch to the face, full contact, no gloves, and of course, everyone's breaking their teeth and getting really damaged. And of course, Sosai Masuyama, who's passed away in '95, he said he said, okay, we no more punching to the face. We'll still train, but no full contact in the face. Of course, it's full contact in the body, and you can kick to the face and head and knees and all that full contact. Just no punching to the face anymore because you need to be able to train. So I mean, but we do train protecting our head. So the misnomer about Kyokushin is that, oh, it's great, and but it's full contact. The guys are tough and all that, but they don't punch to the face. So that's a drawback. It's like, well, we do, and when we do Shinken Shobu full matches, and we do punch the face, we do wear gloves, and there are some Shinken Shobu full match face punching tournaments we do. But it's not known for that. So when you talk to a Muay Thai guy, it's like, oh, they don't punch the face, but I like the style. But then you look at Muay Thai and they have these big, generally speaking, they have these big gloves on. In the street, you don't, you fight different with gloves. We don't use any gloves in my style. We do sometimes. I personally don't teach with any gloves because I need my hands. And in the street, you don't wear gloves, so I teach. No, we don't wear gloves when we train. Um, so anyway, that's just different philosophies, and like I said, every style that's training hard and training with good intent, you'll get stuff out of, in my opinion. So there's no bad styles or anything. I don't believe in comparing styles so much. This is the style I choose to train and teach. So you
So
know,
you're located above Denver in Colorado.
I'm in Boulder, but I was in LA for my career. I was in LA for 35 years. So I'm in Boulder, Colorado now for the last 6 years.
And how many nights a week do you teach? You're still teaching. I just help my
I teach 5 or 6 times a week still, but mostly I travel. My next thing is I'm teaching hosting actually the Kyokushin and the full contact karate at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Sports Week, March 1 through 3. So that's my next teaching
is
outside
that
of my
in
area.
Columbus,
But
Ohio?
it's in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, I'm excited. I was doing it last year, but I wasn't doing well physically. I had some illnesses that are now rectified, so I didn't do it last year. Although the posters were there, and I just couldn't do it. But I'm doing it this year, so I'm happy about it. And
My trying. It's been a while since I've been out to Arnold's
oh,
well, it
have
used
you
to
been
be the
there?
Arnold Classic, but now it's
Yeah,
called
this is
a
it.
little bit different. But
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
might
basically
try
the
and
same
make that.
thing.
That'd be nice.
Oh,
I
that'd be great.
my girlfriend's daughter just moved to Denver, so
Oh,
we
so
might
come
be
out here
there
too.
again too and be able to stop in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now we
Oh,
talked about the karate. One thing I was gonna say when you said about tournaments too is my one of my peeves is weapons and how there are these aluminum bows and these light nunchucks and they
not
look
mine.
great. They look great for the tournaments, but you know,
Well, they're lighter. They're lighter, and they can use them fast. I use all oak, and in my forearms, if I'm doing my nunchaku, or my bow, or the tonfa. I mean, my forearms are exhausted. And you see these guys whipping the bow around and doing all this fancy stuff. It's like, wow. I mean, I couldn't even come close to working that fast with my bow. Yeah, they're those are competition weapons, and even the nunchucks, what they're doing up really fast. And you can use mine a little bit fast, but it requires a lot of strength. You
I
know.
think you would break those weapons if you hit a person with them. Which is
Yeah, I think
how
so.
in the old days when we practiced, they used to come around and hit us with the bows
Oh shit,
while we
yeah,
were doing stretches and calisthenics and even punching
yeah.
drills and
And
stuff.
you have the shinai stick, and they'll be smacking you with the shinai. Well, and
Exactly.
when you do the sanchin kata, you have your shirt off so they can see that you're activating all your muscles because it's tension kata. And as you're doing that kata, they're hitting you everywhere. And that came from Weichiru, but they do it in every style basically. And so yeah, you hit someone now in class, except for Kyokushin, but they go, oh, you can't do that. You can't hit anybody. It's like, what are you talking about? It's full con. I mean, you have to. It's karate. I've got to hit you. You've got to hit me back. I mean, it's funny when it's so much political correctness, and you get a 15 to 16-year-old kid. It's like, oh, don't hit my kid. It's like, then get out of class because he's going to get hit. You
My
know,
favorite used to be people that thought, oh, well, once I train, if I get in a fight, I won't get hurt. I'm like, if you get in a fight, you get hurt.
you're gonna get
Fight,
hit. You get how
you
you
know.
overcome that pain. You got to put the pain somewhere else, and pain is part of fighting. You're gonna get hit, and you're gonna have pain, but it's how you deal with that pain, which is the perseverance aspect you mentioned, and the overcoming that pain. And this is why you train full contact. So you're constantly getting hit, not 100%, but you're constantly developing your hitting your body and actually hitting something full contact. Most people say, "Oh, I can take a punch." I said, "Well, also when you have your cortisol going and you have to hit something very hard as you can, the technique generally, if you're not used to hitting something full contact, the technique goes out the window because you just like try to hit as hard as you can, and that's when you get injured striking. You're gonna break your hand, you break your wrist. There's all kinds of techniques that you're losing if you're not practicing hitting full contact at power. So getting hit and hitting full contact is really key.
Now, your studio, is there a website for your studio? Is it in your
No, my dojo that I had here, I had a big dojo in Santa Monica for years, and right, Dolph Lundgren trained with me, and a lot of Leo Machida would come, and Fabricio de Verdun, and so it was a great dojo. But here, I had a dojo when I first moved here 6 years ago, and they tore it down to build condos, and so now I have a private. My garage basically is my dojo, so I teach mostly private. I have Monday and Wednesdays, I have 4 guys that train at the same time. That's about as much as I can fit in there. But typically, I do 1 or 2 people a day, privates basically. So, and then I travel all the time and teach.
like
And,
101 is
like
nice.
I do seminars with us 50, 60, 100 people. And whether it's Costa Rica or whether it's all over. But yeah, mostly I just teach in my garage now. So I don't have a big dojo. But I like it. It's cozy.
I,
You know?
I I one time had 3 studios at a time and trying to
Yeah.
run them, and I found they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
fight unless I was there myself.
Exactly what happened. When I left here, I left the dojo to five of my black belts as a co-op in Santa Monica, and within a year it fell apart. But if you want to find me on it's my name of my dojo is World Budo Arts, World Budo Arts, and that's on Instagram, and my I have a
I'll try
YouTube
and put all
channel.
your links
Oh,
below there,
thanks,
they say.
thanks, I appreciate it. Then YouTube channel as well. So, but yeah, so I don't have a website per se.
So we have about 9 more minutes on here. I tell you
Sure,
what, why don't you tell us more about also your music stuff,
sure.
so people can know some about that?
I appreciate that, John. I've been in the music business for about 38 years, and I was a touring musician until 1987. I got in the record business, and I worked with Enigma Records, then over to Miles Copeland and IRS Records. Then I went to Virgin Records, and then in 1992, in April, I left and started my own company. And since then, I've done pretty much everything. I've managed a bunch of artists, everyone from Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees to Phoebe Snow to Robbie Krieger from The Doors, a bunch of artists. I owned a record label. The last thing I did was co-founded a company called Song Trader, which is a big licensing and branding company that's doing extremely well. I left after 3 years and came to Boulder, and I consult for them now. And then I have a little company called Indie Advance, which is a artist development company, marketing company, distribution company for independent artists. And our big priority right now is an artist named Sierra Miles, who's doing quite well. And but yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. So I kind of retired from the music business to come out to Boulder and just teach. And then COVID hit, and all the teaching went away for a couple of years, and except Zoom, but that's not the same. And I decided, let me go back and revisit a company I sort of started in 2009, which is Indie Advance, and then sort of reimagined it. Started it a couple of years ago. It's about 2.5 years old, I guess now. It's still young. And so I just teach and run this company now. And I'm not working too hard on the company. We kind of focus on just a couple of people, and I'm not trying to blow it up and sell it and make all that money and all that. I'm not doing that with this company. Just chilling, you know.
Just
So
trying to enjoy life.
trying to enjoy life a little bit, and next year maybe make some changes. Maybe go to Mexico. Maybe go to Italy. I don't know.
That to
Uh,
live or just to visit?
to live.
That'd be
I can
nice.
still work. I can still work. These other places around the world now, you can work. And the internet's a great, and cost of living's lower. The weather in Boulder's getting to me now. It's cold. And I'm thinking, at my age and my wife's age, my wife's older than I am, thinking, maybe it's time to get out of this cold, you know.
I have found a lot of times I've had better internet in other countries than here in
Sometimes,
the States. I've
yeah.
made well after I had my hip replaced, I've had a bunch of injuries. Of course, you do sports, you do stuff.
Yep.
I had my hip replaced a number of years ago. Actually, what finished that off wasn't the karate; was taking care of my mother because of that. You don't know how they're going to move, and she was a big woman, and you
Yep.
have to
Yep.
carry them and move them, and that's unpredicted. If you're in combat, you kind of have an idea how people are going to move. But when you're
Yep.
dealing with someone that's not right there mentally, and you're being basically their nursemaid, they make you move in all kinds of ways you don't expect.
Your hip
So
went out.
I had that finally done, and I went to the base camp Mount Everest 6 months after that.
Holy shit.
And I'm making phone calls and text messages from the base camp Mount Everest.
Amazing.
And there's parts of New York I drive to that all of a sudden
Yeah.
no reception.
It drops out. No, I know. Hey, how is your hip? Because I hear that's a really good. I mean, when Dolph Lundgren, he got his hips replaced out here in Vale, so I helped rehab him out here, and he was great after that. And also another major martial arts guy from Australia, he had both hips replaced, and he kicks better with them. And now,
I only do front kicks. I don't try. I do some low sides and back,
yeah, good. That's all
and
you need.
everything I just do low except for front kicks.
Yep.
And but I'm still leg pressing over 500 pounds. But the doctor yells at
Wow.
me for that. He says you
Wow.
can
Wow.
just
Wow.
do 200 pounds, 210 pounds. I'm like,
I don't even know if I do that much. I
what,
don't.
over
I do a
500?
lot of. I do a lot of squats. I don't do any squats with weights. I just do a lot of squats with maybe a 30-pound squat press. I do a lot of those. But and I walk 3 miles a day. Every morning I do my 3 mile walk. And
Well,
then
I
I do
weigh
to the
280.
gym. Then I go to
I'm
the
a big
dojo.
guy. I'm
Oh, you're a big guy.
280,
Oh, okay.
6'2". But
Oh,
I like the hit, but it's a mixed bag of tricks. And I
Yeah.
don't know how Dolph's doing with it too. It's a mixed bag trick. Sometimes you get
Oh, he doesn't kick
weird
high, and he
things.
barely kicks anymore, really now. But
But beforehand, though, my sciatic was so off because the hip was so bad. It would grind, it would lock. None of
yeah,
that. All that pain went away afterwards, right after. But I find when I do benching, sometimes I had to alter how much benching I do because I'd find my back of my legs would go numb, so it would still bother the
right,
sciatic nerve. So I got to watch that, and
yeah,
it's just, yeah, I can't run. I was normally weighing
yeah,
around 240, 250 until the hip
yeah.
replacement.
Uh,
So I'm not fat at 280. I'm just not the
yeah,
thinner, more cut person I was. So
yeah,
well, it does interfere with you, but this is life. I couldn't move with it the way it was.
yeah. No, I'm glad to get it done.
What major? Well, you told me some of your surgeries. Any other surgeries you've had?
Yeah, well, I've broken everything. So I had double hernia surgeries. I mean, they wanted to operate on my finger, and I just wrapped it and kept it, and it's fine now. Had prostate surgery, had nose surgery twice. Um, I've broken everything, my ribs, my hands.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
broken ribs ripped off sternum, broken it.
yeah,
I've had
part of
5 eye operations though, because we were talking about
wow.
hitting to the head. I not only used to
Oh,
get hit to the head, but I used to be one of these stupid people that would break things with my head.
oh
Don't
no, I
ask
never
me
did that.
why.
No,
Huh?
never broke it. I never did any breaking with my head. But I break baseball bats with my shins.
There you
I do
go.
do that. I do
No,
that.
I have
Nothing with
not
my
done
head.
that one though. But I mean, so you do this stuff when you're younger, and then later on,
Yeah,
well, but
yeah,
that's life. The woman I see now that I've been with like for 11 years, I call it a common law marriage. And
yeah, sure.
she says to me, "Well, if you'd known then what you know now, would you still done it?" I said, "Probably. I might
Probably.
have done it more.
Yeah,
They're going to cut you open anyhow."
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but
Anyway,
we're almost at time. I'd like to talk to you again, Tom. This was
sure.
great, and hopefully visit you. Well, what is it that you'd anything you'd like to tell people in ending, maybe, or
Well, just
anything?
I think when music and martial arts is a nice relationship, of but what it's done for me over the years is given me a sense of purpose, sort of, and and um, and I internalize everything. So what I do is mostly for my self growth, and I try to keep myself inspired every day, which is not easy, especially in this day and age with what's going on politically around the world. And it's not easy. So you have to have something you really feel special with, that you can be by yourself and stay inspired, whether it's playing guitar, singing, or art, painting, martial arts, something that you call your own. Even if you think, oh, I don't have any talent. Well, you can develop these talents. No one says you have to be the best of the best. Do stuff for yourself every day. That's what I always tell my students and friends. Do something that's going to inspire you every day, even if you want to start. I've never done that before. I want to start doing it. Something like that.
That is good advice, and it is. You say artistic. I consider the martial arts artistic too,
Absolutely.
because you learn something, but the way you express it or do it has an effect on you showing the inner you. You know.
And you're learning about yourself every time you encounter an obstacle and you overcome it. You've grown a little bit. You've learned about yourself, that you can do more than you think you can do.
Yes. Well, thank you, Tom, and
Well, nice to
hopefully
meet
we'll
you,
talk
Joe.
again. And
I hope so.
it's great seeing you. You've been a friend on Facebook for a while, and
Yeah.
you put up on my stupid stuff I put on there. And
Crazy John. Crazy John. Not stupid. Crazy is different.
that's a name I've had since the early '80s. Well, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Tom.
Thank you. Nice to see you.